I wanted to take just a few minutes to talk to you about your first essay, which is a rhetorical analysis essay. For this assignment, you are going to choose an ad that aired during the 2025 Super Bowl and write a 1,000-word essay that takes a position on how well the ad convinces the intended audience to buy the product, use the service, etc., through the use of the rhetorical appeals. To find one of the Super Bowl commercials from 2025, you can go to YouTube or Google and search Super Bowl commercials 2025. The commercial must be from this year's Super Bowl. You are required to use a 2025 Super Bowl commercial. If you choose a commercial that did not air or is not planning to air during the 2025 Super Bowl, your essay will not be eligible to earn anything other than a 0. So I just want to make sure we're clear on that. Also, to be clear, you will address how the ad uses logos, ethos, and pathos to persuade its audience and take a position on how effective it is. You will also provide an in-text citation when you refer to your commercial. When we look at a sample essay in just a few moments, you'll understand this more. As you're looking to analyze your commercial, you might want to think about the following: whom the ad targets, its audience, how the ad employs ethos, pathos, and logos, if the ad is effective in targeting that audience and convincing them, how visual elements of the ad are used to appeal to values the audience considers important, and what are those values to which the ad appeals, whether or not it's appropriate or worthwhile to appeal to those values, what the advertiser is showing you or maybe not showing you, ways in which reality has been altered in order to make the image more appealing, how the text of the ad or the words that you're hearing relate to the message being communicated, the type of responses the ad elicits. Is it fear, guilt, pity, excitement? What is it? What assumptions the creators of the ad seem to have about the viewers of the ad? When you're looking to organize your paper, you want to think about the parts of your paper. What does your reader need to know before you launch into your thesis? What background information might your reader need? Where will you locate your thesis? What will the rest of your paper do? How will you end the paper? For this essay, you will start with your introductory paragraph that will start broad, and your final sentence of that paragraph will be your thesis. When organizing your essay, you are required to use the following approach that is outlined for you here. Not following the required organization pattern will reduce your grade by 50%. What that means is if you would have earned a 78 on the essay, the highest grade you are actually going to make on it would be a 39, because you're going to get a 50% penalty for not following instructions. This is kind of like having to use a 2025 Super Bowl commercial. If you do not follow instructions, there are severe penalties for not following those instructions. So here is your organizational approach or pattern. You will start with your introductory paragraph. You will have 4 body paragraphs. The first body paragraph is going to work to identify the intended audience and how the ad makes it clear who that audience is. Then you will talk about how the ad appeals to ethos, pathos, and logos. Now, you can talk about ethos, pathos, and logos in whichever order you want to, but your first body paragraph after your introductory paragraph is going to be who the intended audience is and how we know. Then you will launch into one of the rhetorical appeals, a second rhetorical appeal, and then the third rhetorical appeal. Then finally, you will conclude your paper with a conclusion paragraph. So a few things to consider as you are trying to figure out how to get started. Even though you're not required to submit this, I strongly encourage you, once you've watched your ad a few times, is to do a pre-writing with detailed written descriptions of how your ad was composed, if your reader could perhaps not watch the ad. Now, when you submit your essay, there'll be a link to your ad. I'll be able to watch the video. I'll be able to see the ad. You taking this important step to think it through and how you would describe it will help you generate many observations and details about the ad that will help you analyze it through the lens of ethos, pathos, and logos. In the paper, your descriptions of the ad should be vivid enough to paint a word picture. The reader should be able to visualize the ad without having to continually refer to it. So your reader should not have to continually stop, go watch the ad, and then come back to your paper. It should come alive through your words. As you take your ideas, take an objective position. The readers know you are stating what you think because you wrote the paper. Therefore, avoid using "I think that," "I believe," "I feel that," "in my opinion," simply because it's unnecessary and can make your writing wordy. We are going to stay in the objective third-person point of view, which means you also should avoid using "you" and "your" in your paper unless you are actually directly addressing a specific reader, which you are not for this assignment, you would instead decide who it is the you would represent and replace that you with a more specific appropriate noun or phrase. So it could be students, teenagers, adults, or generally speaking, for a paper like this where there's an intended audience, who that audience is. Is it moviegoers? Is it makeup lovers? Who is it? Then for your thesis statement, it should be an analytical thesis, not a descriptive thesis. In other words, it should not state what the ad is doing, but rather how the ad is doing what it's doing and whether or not it's effective at it. Now, support from sources. For this essay, you will not incorporate sources other than your commercial or ad itself. If you access sources other than the commercial, you will earn a 0 on the essay. You will get 0 credit. So I hope that you are hearing what I'm saying here. Do not use outside sources. You will use your brain and the commercial. That is all. Requirements, length, 1,000 words is your minimum, not including your works cited page or page setup, any of that. 1,500 words is your word maximum. You will have 6 paragraphs that follows the required organizational pattern as outlined earlier. You will use MLA format. You will have a works cited page where you will cite your advertisement. Again, you're not going to be using any additional sources, so it should only be that advertisement. And then you include a copy or, well, a link to the advertisement for your essay. That actually will take place in that works cited page if you do it correctly, okay? Any missing component to this assignment, no works cited page, no ad, etc., will have a negative impact on your grade. And then I've provided you due dates along with a sample essay. So let's have a look at the sample essay. So for the sample essay, notice that it's in MLA format. I want to be clear that this is student work, so there are certainly things that could be improved here. For example, a glaring thing that could be done better that this student did not achieve is that rather than titling the paper Rhetorical Analysis Essay, it should be a paper that is titled with something that is enticing and engaging for your reader. It should be something that is catchy or hooks your reader in. It shouldn't just be Rhetorical Analysis Essay. When this essay was graded for this student, they did lose some credit because they didn't take the time to come up with a quality title. That said, overall, this essay is a strong essay. There are a few grammar mechanics things, but by way of content, it does a really nice job. So notice in this introductory paragraph, it starts broad talking about the Super Bowl, ultimately starts to narrow down to its specific ad, and then it concludes with its thesis statement. So here's its thesis. Because e.l.f. convincingly uses rhetorical appeals and is conscious of their customers' desires, they effectively persuade makeup lovers to purchase their beauty products. This thesis is mostly working well. If I were nitpicking this, I might say it should include first one thing or another. Maybe we'd tweak the wording in some way or another. So sure, the wording could be sharpened here, but the thesis is mostly successful. It mentions the rhetorical appeals. Notice that it didn't list ethos, logos, and pathos. It identifies the commercial that it is coming from e.l.f. Notice in the sentence before, the commercial was actually introduced. You want to introduce the commercial before you narrow to it in your thesis statement. And it also takes a position that it effectively persuades the audience, and it also identifies the audience. So it's doing a lot, and it's doing it mostly well. I wouldn't want you necessarily to follow this exact wording or anything like that. That would be plagiarism. That would be cheating. But by way of what this student has accomplished in this thesis statement, it works quite nicely. The next thing I want to look at is this first body paragraph. We're not going to read through the full essay, but I want you to see what this student does and how the student does it so that you can see the relationship between topic sentence and thesis statement, and then how the topic sentence is being supported through evidence from the commercial, that sort of thing. So here's what we have. e.l.f. launches in an influential commercial by thoroughly understanding their audience of beauty enthusiasts want clean, affordable products. Notice here, this paragraph, because it's following the organizational pattern, is supposed to prove who the who the audience is and how we know. And so it's saying, hey, they do this well because they understand who the audience is. Let's see how they support this. The setting of the advertisement takes place during a court trial where the defendant states, it isn't even cruelty-free. Notice that there's information in brackets here. If you ever need to add context to a quote, you put it in brackets like this, not in little squiggly things, not in parentheses, but actual brackets that look like this. Also notice that there is a timestamp. Now, here's something that could be better about this. The timestamp should actually include the first zeros and shouldn't include these others. So this is showing me that at the 32 to 35 second mark, I could go and see this quote and what is happening, okay? Frequently, beauty products from companies go through heavy animal testing. This causes harm to them due to the injecting of chemicals and often results in death. The defendant represents consumers who do not purchase products made by cruelty-free makeup companies and their wishes to start changing their previous decisions. This shows how e.l.f. makes a perfect fit for those who want to purchase makeup that won't cause harm to animals. So it's setting up how they're trying to get to their audience who are beauty enthusiasts who want clean, affordable products. Then it pivots to the next example. Later, Judge Beauty makes a verdict on the case, and she announces, I find you guilty of reckless spending. This portrays the large amount of money patrons spend when buying beauty items. When shopping at the stores that carry a large number of cosmetics, bills can easily reach over $100. e.l.f. solves this by offering a variety of makeup comparable to luxury brands for a fraction of the price. This means that those who cannot afford higher end pricing can buy their items without a problem and will receive exceptional quality for what they paid. So here in this paragraph, we see our writer proving that the items are clean and that they're affordable, that they're ethical and they're affordable, right? That e.l.f. has narrowed in on a specific audience. Notice that it's not Super Bowl watchers. That would just be a general audience. And most ads, even if it's airing during the Super Bowl, are not actually just targeting any old body watching the Super Bowl. More often than not, there is a more specific audience. We've talked about this before leading up to this assignment. Keep that in mind here. Now, again, I'm not going to read the full essay to you. That's your job to go in and do the legwork here, but I will draw your attention to additional topic sentences. The e.l.f. advertisement strategically utilizes logos to persuade cosmetic users by presenting the compelling benefits of buying their makeup. And then they go through and give us examples. Then additionally, e.l.f. Cosmetics uses celebrity endorsements and their brand reputation to assist in building their credibility. Notice with these topic sentences, it's showing a couple of things, which rhetorical appeal they're talking about and how they know that the ad is doing this thing. So for logos, it's that they strategically use logos to persuade cosmetic users by presenting compelling benefits of buying their makeup. That's going to be those facts. Sometimes with logos, we think facts and statistics just mean statistics. It can just be the facts of what you are being told about the cost of certain things or what you're actually being shown in the ad that relates to the specific product. For example, if you were watching an Amazon Echo commercial where the Alexa feature is being used, hearing the characters in the ad use that Amazon Echo and seeing how the Echo responds would be an example of logos here. Additionally, we get on to celebrity endorsement and brand reputation being how they're building credibility. And then she's going to prove that in her paragraph. Then she gets to pathos and she says they highlight the positives of their makeup quality to beauty consumers, making users feel good about choosing their products. Here we understand that the overall emotion is going to be that feeling good because they're choosing positive products that are helpful and useful. And then she's going to close out with a pretty impactful, well thought out concluding paragraph. Something I want to stop and say here because I think it's important and sometimes students overlook this detail. When you are choosing the Super Bowl ad you are going to use, you need to choose one that does a good job of using ethos, pathos, and logos. You will not do well if you have a commercial where you can't do a good job of talking about how it effectively uses all three of those. While you could take the position that an ad is not effective, you won't have adequate examples, which means your essay ultimately will not do well on this assignment. I'm mentioning this to you here so that while you are thinking about how you would like to go about constructing your essay, that you are picking a commercial that is meaty. Notice on that early assignment where you watched commercials and did the group work, all of those that I gave you to choose from were the longer commercials. The longer commercials that you get from the Super Bowl are going to be the commercials that are going to work better, because if you do a quick one or one that's just funny, you probably aren't going to have a whole lot of logos, so you may not have a whole lot of ethos, and you do have to show that you know how an ad is using all three and be able to talk about it for a minimum of 1,000 words. This essay comes in right at 1,000 words. And then there's the works cited page. Notice on the works cited page, we only have the ad. Notice the information that's provided here. This is more or less what your works cited page should look like. There's only the ad. As a reminder, you have to provide a link. If you are doing your works cited entry, the link's going to be right in there so your reader can access your commercial. I mentioned this to you to say, again, you are not allowed to use any sort of outside sources. That doesn't mean, oh, I Googled my commercial and found out information, but I'm just not going to cite it. What I'm telling you is only use the commercial in your brain, okay? It's really important that we can see how much you've learned, how much your learning has progressed, and it's also important for you to maintain the basic tenets of academic integrity. I hope this video helped you out. I know it's a long one. I'm sorry that it's so long, but I wanted you to have a pretty good feeling about this essay, what's being asked of you, and what's expected from you. If you have any questions or need any help, just let me know.